Isn't it strange that a person can spend half their life longing for change and never take a single step toward it? We dream of freedom but become prisoners of our own habits. We talk about happiness but remain trapped in excuses. We wait for life to give us more, even though life is already waiting for us to become more. Friends, desire on its own holds no power. Real power lies in aspiration backed by discipline. And today, I will show you why the difference between I want and I decide determines whether you will live your dreams or leave them as mere dreams. Stay with me. At the end, we'll take a practical step that will help turn your desires into reality. Isn't it a paradox, friends, that we spend entire decades repeating out loud, "I want a better life," while silently whispering to ourselves permissions for yesterday's habits in the quiet of our rooms? I once sat in a small room with a portfolio full of bills and an empty calendar of action, and suddenly realized, desire carries no weight until it's wrapped in discipline. Desire is smoke, sweet-smelling but quick to vanish. Aspiration is an ember you fan daily with the breath of decisions. Look at your day, how easily we look forward to the weekend, a movie, dessert, a new purchase, and how rarely we look forward to a meeting with our own greatness, as if it were foreign and uncomfortable. Yet that very greatness is your invisible creditor. Either you pay it attention today, or the interest of indifference eats away at tomorrow's chance. I'm speaking of a simple, not always pleasant truth. Life willingly gives itself to those who show up not with a plea, but with a plan, not with a dream, but with a schedule, not with an excuse, but with a character-building routine. How many times have we promised ourselves to start on Monday, signing a contract of procrastination that ended up signing us instead? I used to wait for the right mood, clarity, signs from the sky. And then I met a harsh mirror, not the one on the wall, but the one that lives in actions. It doesn't flatter. It reflects not what I want, but what I've become. And in that reflection, I didn't see a lack of luck, a bad economy, or a cruel world. I saw a poorly handled steering wheel of my own habits. We don't blame the ocean when a boat is anchored in the bay. We either raise the sail or remain tourists on the shore. Ambition isn't the loud drums of fame or fanfare at the start. Ambition is a quiet agreement with yourself last night and your signature on it this morning. Its skeleton is discipline. Its muscles are small, repeated actions. Its blood is intolerance to our own impotence in the little things. When I first told myself enough wanting, well, it's time to become, it didn't get easier, but it got clear. Every minute either feeds your future or funds your oblivion. Think about it. We pay money for comfort without hesitation, but sparingly give attention to what shapes us. And attention is the currency with which you buy a new version of yourself. Today I'm speaking to you not as a judge, but as a fellow traveler. Stop wishing for a life you haven't paid for with action. Put the shiny dreams back on the shelf and pick up the tools. The habit of waking up when you said you would. The discipline of doing what you don't feel like. The art of being honest with your own mirror. You're in for a strange experience. When you grow a little bigger on the inside, the world begins to respond with bigger opportunities on the outside, not because the world changed, but because you forced it to recalculate its course in relation to you. So before we go any further, let me ask directly, are you ready to part ways with the fairy tale of someday and marry the hard truth of today? If so, subscribe to this channel, because here we don't sell inspiration without instructions. We deliver instructions with a guarantee of trials. And stay until the end. I'll give you a simple, practical procedure, a short ritual to close your day and launch your morning that will turn your I want into I do, and your hours into capital that works for you even while you sleep. You don't need to wait for perfect weather. You only need to learn to hold the course. And if you ask me where to start, the answer is as old as it is wise. Start with yourself, but this time, not with desire, but with a decision. Take a close look at one quiet detail of our lives. We eagerly await the little things and treat the big things with indifference. A child squirms with impatience before a birthday, an adult before weekend discounts. But who among us wakes up in the morning with the same impatience for our own greatness? I didn't see that in myself for a long time. I wanted a better life, but behaved like a guest in my own story, politely sat on the edge of the chair and waited for someone to say, "It's your turn." But no one said it. And one day I realized, life doesn't invite you onto the stage. It watches to see whether I've already stepped out. Here's a paradox that can change your morning. Desire is a warm blanket under which we like to talk about cold peaks. Aspiration is laced up boots and a path that doesn't ask whether it's comfortable. Desire is about tomorrow. Aspiration is about now. And one more truth that may hurt before it heals. We don't get what we want. We get what we are willing to become. The world mirrors us like water, and if the reflection is weak, the water isn't to blame. I remember my tomorrows. They were neatly folded in a drawer, each with the promise, starting Monday. But Monday arrived with the same face as Friday. My mood was running my schedule, not the other way around. Then came the moment when I got tired of my own polite inaction. I sat down and honestly asked myself, if someone were filming a movie about my life, would I want to be the main character of that plot? Wouldn't I look like a supporting character who is always about to start? And then, a low blow. Am I hiding my fears behind the pretty phrase, waiting for the right moment? From here begins true ambition, not with fanfare, but with an inner contract. Today, I will do what I promised myself yesterday. Ambition is not a loud social media post. It is a quiet yes to discipline when no one is watching. It does not tolerate grand speeches. It loves small actions repeated stubbornly. I learned to ask questions bluntly, like a craftsman striking with a hammer. What exactly will I do by 10 o'clock so that my I want stops being a child's cry? Whom will I call? What will I prepare? Which page will I read? Which exercise will I finish, even if I don't feel like it? And friends, it is precisely in these moments, when we make the unpleasant scheduled, that life begins to step back before us. I could have blamed the economy, the market, the people who didn't understand me. But one day I was shown another mirror. If others earn more in the same company, the problem isn't the company. Harsh? Yes, but it's liberating. Because as soon as I admitted that cause and effect begin with me, I got the lever back. Every evening I ask, who did I become today? Not what did I receive, not who praised me, who did I become? Because what I attract tomorrow depends on that. When a person changes, their trajectory changes. Opportunities that used to pass by suddenly slow down and look in my direction. I'm often told, I want it too. I want it very, very much. And I answer, good. Show me your calendar, because our priorities aren't in our heads or hearts, they're in the schedule. If you have time for aimless scrolling, but not for 20 lines of a journal, 10 pages of a good book, 30 minutes of work on a skill, then you desire, but you do not aspire. Don't be offended. Accept it as a diagnosis that leads to treatment, because it is treatable. Today, with a small pill of resolve, washed down with a large glass of action. And another thing about fear, it loves the mask of common sense. Wait for a better moment, it whispers. Gather all the data. Be 100% ready. And paid in years. Until I noticed that those who started with a crooked shovel and warped boards had already built a house, while I was still drafting the perfect plan. At some point, you have to admit, perfectionism is fear in an expensive suit. The best day to start isn't when you stop being afraid, but when you agree to be afraid and act. Contracts are signed with trembling hands too. Discipline doesn't demean, it frees. It takes away the mood's right to dictate our tasks. It doesn't ask, do you want to? It asks, have you decided? It's like that bridge over the river someday. Without it, we can stand on the bank and admire the scenery of dreams, yet never step to the other side. How do you build a bridge? Not all at once, pile by pile, bolt by bolt. Character is assembled the same way. An early rise where yesterday there was drowsiness. An honest hour of work where yesterday there was fuss. A sober no where yesterday there was a polite, well, okay. I'm learning to honor time as a sanctuary. Money can be earned twice. Time cannot. Every minute is either an investment or an expense. A spent minute returns empty. An invested one brings friends along. That's why every evening I close the day with two actions. A brief review, what was done, what I learned, where I was less than honest, and a small plan. What exactly I'll do first thing tomorrow so that victory becomes inevitable. And listen, this works not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because I stopped handing the wheel over to coincidences. And one more thing, don't be mistaken, aspiration is not a rejection of joy. It is a rejection of cheap substitutes for joy. There's a dessert that eats your morning, and there's work that adds flavor to every bite of life. There's a conversation that warms you for 10 minutes, and there's a page that warms you for decades. There's an evening that steels your muscles and will, and there's an evening that casts them in bronze. I'm not for harsh asceticism. I'm for generous rewards, honestly earned by steps that led through I don't want to. Friends, I want you right now, in this very moment, to feel a slight chill down your back, not from fear, but from the nearness of truth. You are strong enough to stop bargaining with yourself. You are wise enough not to confuse desire with aspiration. You are alive enough to choose today. I invite you on a journey where we won't change the world with whips and slogans. We will change ourselves with keys from within. And when the doors open, the world will politely step aside, making room for your new stride. Stay close. Next, I will show you how to build an invisible exoskeleton of discipline around your day. Simple signals, small rituals, quick check-ins that make you sturdier than yesterday's self. And at the end, we will perform a practice together that will take you out of the circle of dreams into a trajectory of action. It won't be easy, but it's worth it. Because, as I like to say, don't wish for it to be easier. Wish to become better. And the better ones don't wait for invitations. They arrive first and stay to the end. I want you to feel one thing as sharply as cold water on your face. Your future isn't hidden in big milestones, diplomas, job titles, relocations. It's hidden in the unnoticed details in what you do between 9 and 10 in the morning, between 9 and 10 at night. The future lives in how you speak to yourself when no one hears. I used to speak softly and indulgently, like with a guest I was afraid to offend. All right, I'll skip today. I'll catch up tomorrow. And tomorrow arrived empty-handed. Until I changed the tone, not to cruelty, but to honesty. Friend, either you drive the day, or the day drives you from the trunk. Tell me honestly, who was at the wheel today? There's a phrase I still repeat to myself. Standing still costs more than moving. Stopping feels free, but each day it deducts a % of your self-belief. When you break your word a second time, you haven't just postponed something. You've shifted the boundaries of what you now consider normal for yourself. And that quiet erosion is scarier than any failure. Failure hurts and wakes you up. Erosion lulls you to sleep. That's why I ask you now, as I ask myself in the hardest years. Have you become a polite accomplice in your own decline? Don't be offended. Better wake up. Let's take a simple morning. The alarm clock. 10 seconds of silence in which not the day is decided, but your character. If you win those 10 seconds, the rest of the hours become your allies. If you lose, the whole day turns into a translator for your excuses. I'm not romanticizing early rising. I'm romanticizing trust in yourself. When you get up when you said you would, somewhere deep inside a sentence is born, I am a person of my word. And that sentence, repeated hundreds of times, changes your opportunities better than any contact or stroke of luck. And now, deeper still, the world doesn't pay for your wishes. The world pays for your value. And value isn't talent on display, but skills in action. You want more, become more, not in slogans, in competence, not in emotions, in practice. I know how doubts sound. Where do I start? What if it doesn't work? What if they say I'm not ready? They will say it. So what? Sometimes the world says no, not to break you, but to check if you've really decided. When I was young and broke, they also told me too late, too risky, unrealistic. They were right about the circumstances, but they were wrong about me, because inside I had already stopped being the person I was yesterday. Let me give you an image that once flipped my thinking. Imagine a mirror. You're unhappy with the reflection. You reach for the glass to fix something. Absurd, right? You're supposed to touch your face, not the glass. Life is the same mirror. Change your habits. The reflection of income changes. Change your language. The reflection of relationships changes. Change your treatment of time. The reflection of results changes. That's why every evening I do a short review. 3 sentences about what I did right, 1 where I lied to myself, and 1 about what I'll do differently tomorrow. 5 sentences, colossal impact. because I stopped lying to myself in the little things, which are what the big lie is made of. You may be thinking now, easy to say, number. Easy is postponing. Speaking honestly is hard. Acting despite fear is hard, but it's hardness that gives shape. You don't build strength with balloons. You need resistance. So when it gets hard, don't read it as a sign stop. Read it as a sign it's begun. The pain of change is the price we pay for the right to call ourselves a new person. And if right now you're a little scared of the scale ahead, good. It means you're standing at the door where the ceiling is higher. There's another enemy worth naming aloud, comparison. It's the quiet thief of joy and progress. You compare, you lose drive. I too once spent hours staring at other people's peaks instead of digging my own foundation, until I realized, in other people's stories you'll always be an extra. Only your own story can make you the hero. So maybe it's time to stop being a fan of others' takeoffs. Maybe it's time to be the spectator who stepped onto the stage. I promise you, next comes the practical part. An evening ritual and a morning start protocol that turn intentions into habits. But before that, I need you to do one inner thing. Make a decision, no longer than a minute, but forever. From now on, you don't bargain with yourself. You either say yes and do it, or honestly say no and stop pretending. It's astonishingly cleansing. Freedom returns not when obligations disappear, but when every yes and every no become real. And finally, so the feeling I want to give you. Picture tomorrow morning. The world is the same, the alarm clock the same, the tasks the same, but inside there's a different person. They rise without bargaining. They stand under cold water, not as a victim, but as an author. They open their journal and write not wishes, but decisions. They leave the house not for applause, but for experience. And everything around it, the same, suddenly responds differently. Doors that creaked open more easily. People who doubted listen more attentively. Opportunities that used to run stop for a second longer. What is it? Magic number. It's you. You've become heavier for the world, in the best sense. The first wind no longer blows you away. Stay with me just a bit more, and we'll begin to assemble your invisible exoskeleton of discipline. Simple steps, firm agreements, gentle rewards. I'll give you the tools, and you'll give yourself your word. And if just now you felt a shiver down your spine, hold on to it. It's not fear, it's life knocking from inside, reminding you, I'm ready if you are. There is a moment that defines the whole day, and almost no one notices it. It's not the sound of the alarm clock or the first coffee. It's the first honesty, those few seconds when you either admit the truth about yourself or once again paint over a prettier version. I knew what it was to touch up the truth. I told myself, I'm tired, I've earned a break. In reality, I was just giving fear another name. And as long as I kept changing labels, life didn't change its content. Only when I started calling things by their real names did a solid floor appear within me, something I could push off from. Look around. Everyone has reasons to postpone. Everyone has their own map of excuses. But time and again I learned, a reason is a door with no handle on the inside. You either learn to push it open with your own decision, or you sit in a room scented with dreams and emptiness. I sat in that room for years. Until one evening, flipping through the day, I asked, what grew inside me today? Not earnings, not likes, not someone's approval. Inside me. And I was scared by the silence in response. Silence is a sign that we're not tending a garden but weeds. So I began planting small seeds. A page of a book, an honest paragraph in a journal, a short conversation with someone I owed truth to, 15 minutes of a craft that converts desire into value. In the morning, those seeds showed nothing yet, but a month later, they changed my silhouette. There's a simple formula I live by. Don't look for motivation, look for momentum. Start moving, and desire will catch up. Imagine cold water in the morning. It's the same every day, but one day you step under it as someone different. Not as the one who doesn't feel like it, but as the one who decided. It's a subtle difference, but the whole world hears it. Doors that didn't open yesterday now give way half a turn. Not because the handle changed, because the weight of your word did. And now let me be blunt. Standing still isn't neutral, it's expensive. Every postponed action raises the tax on your self-belief. Belief is the currency you pay with for big projects. It doesn't come from nowhere. It's minted at your inner treasury every time you do what you promised, even when your hands shake. That's how you forge reserves that one day let you tackle what yesterday terrified you into paralysis. Another thing must be said aloud. Don't confuse fatigue with lack of meaning. Fatigue goes away with rest. Lack of meaning never does. If you keep burning out from what doesn't build you, try the hardest thing. Stop and listen to what inside of you says yes. True discipline isn't about violence against yourself. It's about loyalty to yourself. It knows how to say no to what dissolves you and yes to what gathers you. And when your yes and no become authentic, the worst exhaustion disappears, the one that comes from pretending. Someone once told me, life is a mirror. Don't break the glass. Change the face. At first I was offended, then I was grateful, because as soon as I shifted my effort from the surface to the substance, the world became simpler. I stopped begging mercy from chance and started demanding honesty from myself. I stopped waiting for someone to open the stage and started opening my mouth when it was my line. I stopped collecting the right mood and started collecting small proofs that I could be trusted. And those proofs changed my course better than any storm. If right now you feel a slight chill, hold on to it. It's not fear. It's that inner yes finally asking to come out. I ask you to do just one thing. Tonight, don't fall asleep until you write down 3 things that made you bigger and 1 thing you'll correct tomorrow. That will be your first stone in a foundation strong enough for the next floors. And tomorrow morning, when the alarm buzzes, don't look for reasons. Look for the first move. It's small, but it's what starts a day that works for you. Stay with me. Soon we'll put together the full ritual. An evening that closes the day honestly, and a morning that opens it powerfully. I'll give you simple steps. You'll add resolve. And then the most beautiful thing will happen. What you wanted will stop begging life to let it in. Life will start begging to come to you. Because friends, don't wish for it to be easier. Wish to become better. And the better ones don't bargain with themselves. They sign and they deliver. And now, friends, I want to do something special with you. Not a lecture, but a conversation. Not theory, but a mirror. 5 simple questions, but they can hit harder than a long sermon. Don't stop. Don't put down the pen. Don't try to write a beautiful answer. Answer yourself right now in your mind. The scale is simple, from 1 to 10, where 1 means I haven't even started yet, and 10 means I live this every day without exception. First question, how much has your desire already become action? Imagine a seed. You can carry it in your pocket for years, dreaming of the tree it might become, but it only sprouts once it's in the ground. So friend, on your scale, are you still carrying the seed in your pocket, or do you already have saplings? Second, how much does discipline run your day, not your mood? Picture a bridge over a raging river. If the bridge is made of cardboard, the first waters will wash it away. If of stone, it holds. Your day is that bridge. What is it built of? Whims or decisions? Give yourself a number. Third, how much are you working on yourself, not just at your job? Many give their life to a company but forget about their own inner garden. Do you water it? Do you sow new knowledge or only collect others' instructions? Give yourself an honest score. Fourth, how honestly do you look in the mirror? Remember, the mirror isn't guilty for showing the truth. Don't break the glass. Work with the reflection. Do you acknowledge your weak spots or invent excuses? It's not easy, but honesty here is your strongest weapon. Fifth, how much do you take 1 small step forward each day, even when you don't feel like it? Think of a staircase. You can stare at the peak and feel fear, or you can take 1 step today, just 1, and that step brings you closer to the summit. Where are you on the scale? In motion or in talk about motion? Friends, I'm not asking you to write everything down right now. Just think without pausing the video. Feel how your mind answers faster than your words. And after watching, go back and write down your numbers on paper. You'll be surprised how honest a mirror it is. And one more tip, don't be afraid of small numbers. Be afraid only of 0 steps, because any step forward is already a victory over yesterday's self. And now ask yourself, which of these 5 am I ready to raise by at least 1 point today? That is the beginning of transformation. Friends, allow me to tell you this openly. You already have everything you need to change your life. Not tomorrow, not after vacation, not after the next right moment, right now. In your hands is the seed that can become a garden. In your hours is the capital that can become wealth. In your decisions is the bridge that can carry you to the other shore. I've lived long enough to know desire is worth nothing without action, and action is worth nothing without discipline. But when you unite these 3 things, desire, action, and discipline, you become a force the world cannot ignore. You become a magnet for opportunities, an example for others, the hero of your own story. Remember one phrase that once saved me. Don't wish for it to be easier. wish to become better. Easier times may never come, but you can become stronger, wiser, more generous, more disciplined, and then any time becomes your ally. So here's my challenge. Tomorrow, wake up not as someone who waits, but as someone who begins. Wake up with the decision to be bigger than you were yesterday. Wake up with the promise that today you will plant at least one seed that will surely sprout. Because the greatest tragedy is not that the dream didn't come true, but that we never dared to live it. Friends, don't let your desires wither in the drawer of someday. Turn them into aspiration today. Because when you change inside, life around you changes as if it has been waiting for this for years. And then one day you'll wake up and realize you no longer wish for the life of your dreams. You are living it.